It's your girl Varsi. Welcome to In the Shack, where we talk about all things Junkanoo.
And I'm Michael Pateman, and we are here in the shack, well, I guess the second shack of the Swingers Junkanoo Group. And since I said 6-time champions for Platinum Nights when we recorded in their shack, now I have to say the new champion Swingers after the Pineyard Rush on January 9th and 10th. And we have a very special guest today. I'll let him introduce himself.
My name is Anjoun Armaly, Chairman, Swingers Junkanoo Group and Community Organization.
So before we get into this podcast, let's just remind you to like this channel, subscribe to these podcasts, and please leave a comment or a question. And if you're interested, please send us a message. We'll love to have you on In the Shack. So Armaly, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And once again, congratulations. And I guess Farsi, congratulations.
I don't know, it feels so weird. 7 straight.
Oh, so
God. Okay.
You say you're a 7 straight champion.
I guess I 7 straight.
Yeah.
I don't know if PK and Swingers are going to like that. You say not too much, but.
Yeah. But I guess we'd want to know, like, how was the past year? You know, you had a year of preparation, and I know you said you made some adjustments because you wanted to see what was the problem. And I heard that you got a projector screen in which you showed the group the flaws and pointed out what you wanted to fix. Do you feel satisfied after you did that this year?
Well, this year we made a lot of changes towards improving our overall product in terms of the group appearance, the group structure from an organizational perspective. Initially what we did is after we would have gotten the results we got the judges package, which showed the breakdown of all of the scores and exactly how we place in the parade. We had a general meeting in which we showed a video of the past parade, and we were able to see ourselves for exactly how it happened. Sometimes you can just talk about what you think may be an issue, but actually highlighting and showing it to individuals, they could really see and understand exactly what it is you're saying. So that is one thing that we did. On watching the video, on watching ourselves, we were able to see all of the inconsistencies, all of the flaws, all of the problems that we had on the parade. And those were some of the things that we were putting a lot of emphasis on targeting for this particular year.
Right.
But this year it had its share of challenges. It started out with the loss of our leader, as you're aware. Mm-hmm. And then right behind that, we lost one of our number one fans in the mom of Chef and Shelly, who was the leadership of the choreograph section.
Right.
And right behind her death, I lost my business to a fire. And right behind that, I lost my brother. And right behind that, we lost one of our board members. So, tragedy was in and around the group pretty much all year. We battled with our internal struggles. We didn't lose focus. And we sort of used Junkanoo as an outlet to sort of drown our sorrow, so to speak.
Right.
So we put a lot more focus, a lot more focus on what it is we were trying to achieve. And that is how we were able to bury a lot of the troubles that we were having. So I think all in all, we are pleased with the outcome.
Well, you did win the parade.
We won, but we still have some things that we need to fix. And then there were so many losses we had to achieve this one victory. So it's bittersweet, but we're grateful nonetheless.
And I think, Armaly, you said something there that Varsi and I have talked about a few times, using Junkanoo as sort of therapy.
Yeah. Right.
And it seems like this year, the Swingers used Junkanoo as a sort of group therapy. And you yourself, because you had some personal losses along with the group losses. Yeah,
some personal challenges.
So this was, it shows just once again how useful and how important Junkanoo is to our society. It's not just a 1-night or 2-night parade as some fans might think. it's a family, it's therapy, it's everything.
No. Well, for us in the Swingers organization, we don't use or see Junkanoo as a one-day event.
Right.
Like some people just focus on competition on the actual parade day. We use Junkanoo as a tool year-round to one, unify, as well as display. We also use it as a tool for young persons within our organization as a form of discipline and structure. Because if you want to be a part of us, you have to make sure that you are in sync with what it is that we do, right? Your grades have to be up to certain standard. We don't just go out and do Junkanoo, we also work in the community. And you have to be willing to be a part of the community initiatives that we do and not just think competition parade day. So Junkanoo for us is more than just something we do, to compete. And again, anything and anywhere throughout the community that persons want us to display our culture, we're always on board. We're always ready to go. So from that perspective, we're always excited to display and participate in our culture in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I didn't know about the community stuff, but please this year let me know. Don't think as me as a guy who's just recording Junkanoo.
Yeah, what
I'm
we
big
do-
into the community and community work, so I'd love to join you guys on some of your community initiatives this year.
Yeah, what we do, we go and we visit the old folks' home. We go and visit the children's home. Even though our group is based on sponsorship, we don't always and only take in funds towards the group. We also use those funds towards the initiatives that we do as well. We make donations to various churches. We make donations to the children's home. We also go in and around the schools. We had a breakfast drive that we were doing at one point as well. So part of the funding that we get in as sponsorship, we also put back in the community which we live as well.
And that's just so important because without the community, there is no
Or
Junkanoo.
nothing, exactly. The community is us and we are the community. So that's why it's so important to build the community in which we live. We have to build the young people. We have to be the change that we want to see. So it's all fine and well saying, but we actually have to get out there and do. And that is something that we try to do and try to be consistent with.
Right. So I know I made a joke about the 7th Street, but I know being in this group, being with the Swingers, I should say, I've been able to see the dynamics of different groups over the years. And I know with this group, they're emphasizing structure. So how important is it for you as a chairman when it comes to structure? How hard is it actually to implement structure into, I guess, a really culturally based industry like this?
And especially one that has organized chaos, as was said last night during the interview for the documentary.
Extremely difficult, truth be told. And us as Bahamians, once we're comfortable with doing something a certain way, we're afraid of change.
Right.
Whether or not change is positive or negative, we just fight change in general. So what we did this year was we implemented 3 layers of structure in the group. We implemented a leadership team, we implemented a board of directors, and we also implemented section leaders. So the hope and understanding was for us to be able to finance the community initiatives, one, finance the group, as well as be able to deal with discipline and order and just general organization in the group. We developed those 3 different layers or layers of administration. We also brought in an administrator whose responsibility it was to deal with all the quote-unquote human resource matters, as well as deal with all the matters relating to the sponsors, as well as the welfare and well-being of our members. I think that type structure we implemented, we were able to actually see where we were going, what we needed to do, points of interest that we needed to have measures of success in terms of where we at, where we needed to go. We were able to track those things much, much better. I think we also brought a sense of transparency and accountability because It wasn't a free fall in terms of just spending the monies that were given to us by the sponsors. We're able now to show you exactly what came in, what was spent, and be able to produce reports that we were given every quarter to the membership as we have meetings. And also now that the year is finished, we're going to do a report where we're going to present that report to the membership as well as the sponsors to show them exactly what came in and how and where the money was spent. So we're keeping with transparency and accountability, and being able to properly account for what came in, what was spent, and how we're able to distribute all of the funds that come in, as well as give account for the materials that came in as well. So I think it helped us a lot. From a discipline perspective, there was a lot of kickback, but I think people could appreciate now what we tried to do. And you can see from persons outside looking in, you can see the group looks totally different, revamped. We start on time, we do things on time now. So I think it has a positive effect on everything that we were trying to do.
Yeah, so one of the things, you kept talking about funds and how much you've brought in and how much you've spent. Roughly, you probably don't have an exact figure yet. How much did you guys spend on this parade?
I think we were somewhere in the neighborhood of 70,000, somewhere there about, from the group. But I know that there were individual members that spent out of pocket as well. But we were somewhere in the neighborhood of $70,000 from the funds that came in from the corporate community.
That's very interesting to hear that, though, because I don't like to do this, but let's put a comparison between Nassau Junkanoo and Freeport Junkanoo. And I've heard a lot of people who came from Nassau talked about how much more they enjoyed the Freeport Junkanoo this year that compared to Nassau Junkanoo. And the parade was, sorry for my Nassau friends at NJC and JCNP, but the Freeport parade is better organized. It flows better. And I think the Freeport Junkanoo community has more fun on the parade route.
Right.
And so we look at the sponsorship that's received in Nassau. Groups receive at least close to 100, at least A groups, the bigger ones. They got over $100,000 just from their title sponsor for a parade. And I saw probably posts of close to 30-something sponsors, probably even more, to raise $70,000. It just shows you how much harder it is, I think, for Junkanoo and Freeport to get to the road.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult, and that's why we are so grateful, thankful, and we're also mindful of what we get and how we spent it, because it's so difficult to get funding, one, and two, we have to be mindful of exactly how we utilize those funds. The groups in Nassau, they're much bigger. The companies in Nassau buy into the culture much more, so they're able to support more. I'm disappointed that some of the very companies that is in Nassau is here in Grand Mama, and they don't contribute to Junkanoo at all. So from that perspective, I'm kind of disappointed. But for those companies that do support Junkanoo here on the island, we're thankful, we're grateful, we appreciate you, and we hope for your continued support. Now, it also made it that much more difficult to not have the funds that you would like to be able to finance a group in which you want. But the little that we do have, we're able to stretch to a point that we're able to put on a good presentation, a presentation that we feel the community is appreciative of, we're thankful for. And with us, we're not competition driven. We're fun driven. And I think you were able to see that on the faces of all the participants. It wasn't a stress or a strain. We were smiling, laughing, having a good time. And that was one thing that we wanted to do this year as well. Go back to the roots. What caused us to fall in love with Junkanoo in the first instance? And once we draw back on those things, we're able to execute and are able to just have a good time on the parade route and, let the chips fall where they may. When you focus on competition, you put more strain and more stress on unnecessary pressure on yourself. So we say, let's go and have fun, let's have a good time. And at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Do you think because of the lack of sponsorships this year, you think there was I guess, a push for Grand Bahama, I guess the community of Junkanoo and Grand Bahama, where they had to, I guess, be more unified and then start to look at different ways of bringing in money other than outsourcing sponsors. You feel as if it gave a push?
Well, sadly, I think the Junkanoo community still has a tribal mentality. I think if we work together much more, we can achieve more. This year, I think the Swingers Group and organization, we relied a little bit more on self-resilience in that
Yeah.
each month, a different section of the group was either doing a south-south or a grill out. And
Right.
we were able to raise funds off our own to try to get us going. With us trying to do self-help, it sort of prod other smaller entities to assist us rather than just sitting back and waiting on
Right.
the seed funding or waiting on the government or waiting on this one and the next one. I always believe that if people see you trying to help yourself, they'll be
Yeah.
more mindful to help you.
Yeah.
So in that, I think it sort of paid off for us and that we were able to get a few more smaller donors as opposed to the one or two big sponsors. And again, we're grateful for those persons for supporting us.
But one of the things you said earlier on was just how much you guys put into it, and you talked about the fun and all that stuff. I have to say, from being out on the parade and watching Junkanoo every year, both Nassau and Freeport Junkanoo, I think this year Swingers, Rockers, and PK were the looks of the groups were ready for Bay Street.
Right.
I think the three of you could have put that, what you did here, on Bay Street and competed for the title, just like the three of you competed for the title right here in Grand Bahama.
Well, thanks for saying that. I know that all year I was saying to my group, the Platinum Knights, they're the 6-time champs. They're no slouch. They're a really good group. They're well financed, well organized, and in order to compete, we had to step our game up. We had to look within.
Right.
Stop this talk about the judges, this thing, the next thing. Look within. Look at our flaws. Look at where we fell short. Look at what improvements we needed to make and make those adjustments. And once we would have made those adjustments, again, let the chips fall where they may.
Right.
I'm also like to send shout out to the Superstar Rockers. The Rockers were really good as well. I know that each and every one of us had challenges and they were still able to make the road. So big shout out to them. But in order for us to beat the Platinum Knights, we had to step up. And I think we did that and we were able to achieve the outcome that we were looking for.
So
Shout out to the Rockers also for winning, I guess, which we can call the the new West End Parade.
Yes,
Because
yes.
they did win the People's Rush down there.
Yes, congratulations to them. And after the parade, I called the leader and I congratulated him. And also said to him that I was impressed very much with two areas of their group. One, they had a young core of choreographed dancers.
Yeah.
Very
And they have
young.
a young core of brass members.
Right.
And I told him, keep encouraging them because in the next year or two, they're going to be a force to reckon with. So big shout out to the Rockers.
Right.
Well, I think they're forced already. 6 times in a row now, they have come second.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
And I said the same thing to them before the parade, that at a certain point, it's going to click with that group. And they will probably be very unbeatable because of how young that core is.
Yes, I
And
agree.
if the rest of your group and the Platinum Knights, classic dancers or new generation doesn't really look at that good mix of younger and older Junkanoos, you're going to have some serious problems with
Yes,
the
I
Rockers
agree. I
in the
agree.
next
Yeah.
couple of years.
I agree. And if they are able to do the things that they're doing now with this young core,
Right.
imagine with a little bit more experience, they're not going to be easy to beat at all. So
Right.
shouts out to the Rockers. Congratulations to them.
I think what it is with most of the groups is knowing how did I lose and how did I win. I think a lot of groups are not able to really look at it honestly and say, okay, how did I win this parade or how did I lose this parade? And so now that the Swingers has won the parade, do you know how the Swingers won the parade? That's one. And then do you think you were able to accomplish most of the things that you showed last year on the projector screen? as floors, you think we're able to get at least 75% of those things to be able to win the parade this year?
I think based on the flaws that we saw from the previous year, I think we were able to address about 65% of those things. And it's scary because if we're able to address all of those issues, we're really going to be a dangerous group to compete with. So coming down to the end of our preparation.
Remember, we're in a shack. Sometimes loud noises happen.
We fell short in some ways. But I think overall, we put a lot of focus and emphasis on costuming. Right. And I think the costuming this year made the biggest or the most difference with everything that we were doing. We knew that once we present quality costumes as opposed to just quantity, I think that would make a big difference, and we were able to achieve it.
Right. And it's going to get a little chaotic in here because I guess the trailer for the Swingers is now being offloaded, so it might get a little loud.
Yeah.
But one of the things you talked about a little bit earlier, Armaly, was structure.
Yes.
And we've talked about this many times on this podcast. We're working on the Unmasking documentary, and we always have to put a plug in somewhere in this podcast. I go out to a lot of the practices, and I go into the shacks behind the scenes. Now, I won't talk about what I've seen in the shacks behind the scene, but what I see at practice, I'll talk about, because everybody could see it.
Right.
Yes.
The one thing I said from the first practice I went to with you guys was I saw a difference. I saw structure. Mm-hmm. And anybody who knows me knows I like structure and I like time. You guys say practice start at 7:30. At 7:30, the practice kicks off no matter who is there. And I love that. And I think at first some of your members had some issues with that because you would see the practice start and then you'd see people rushing in to join. But it kept happening. And at the start of your practice, your whole group was there. Your fans were there. They knew 7:30 meant 7:30.
That was a major fight internally. And even now, a lot of people still fight me down on that, right? I believe that time is essential, and we should be mindful and respectful of everyone's time, because there's a lot of other things that people can be doing if they choose. So if we set a time, we should at least respect each other and show up the time that we set and agree. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I believe that if we're able to start on time, we could accomplish so much more at the end of the day, as opposed to wasting time and not being able to accomplish anything. So bearing in mind, we have kids that are still in school. We have persons that go to work early.
Right.
A 7:30 start times give a benefit to the majority of persons who either go to work early or who go to school or who just have other things that they need to do. A lot more people can benefit. And persons who know me, I'm a stickler for time. If I tell you I'm going to be somewhere at 7 o'clock, I'm actually there from 6:30.
Me too.
So, that's something that was the biggest fight in the group. But I think with that now turning around, I think people are more appreciative of the end result.
But I think it's important also in terms of Junkanoo, because we've now moved to this culture where the parades have realistically started on time for the most part. And if you're the first group and your time is 8 o'clock,
you have to be ready.
You have to be ready.
Yeah, regardless.
So if you build in this mentality of being on time and you tell your group, all right, we're the first group, we have to be out there from whatever time you pick. Your group is now used to that being on time, so it makes it easy. At least that's what I feel. I'm a time person.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't realize. In the last 10 years, the Swingers have picked number 1 6 times.
Jeez.
In 10 years. So we are quite familiar with the challenges of number 1 on time. And that's one of the reasons why I said to them, hell or high water, the start time is the start time. And we have to get familiar and accustomed to it, because you never know what the luck of the draw will be, right?
Right.
But if you always set a time and you're always ready for the time that's set, only good things can happen. So that's one of the reasons why I fought tooth and nail to enforce that 7:30 start time, regardless of whatever it is that we were doing.
And then the other part of the structure I saw from you guys' practice is just the fact that your marshals, a lot of them, came to practice.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize how important that is for Junkanoo.
Yeah, the marshals essentially is one of the most important areas that needs to cover in Junkanoo. The marshals need to be mindful of what needs to happen, what should happen, and additionally, the person should know who the marshals are. And the only way for that to happen is for them to be visible. So that's why each and every week I drill to the marshals, you have to come out, you have to come out, you have to participate. Persons need to know you, and you also need to know your individuals in your section, as well as you need to know the route, you need to know the rules. You need to know what our game plan is. You need to know what strategies that we're trying to implement.
You need to know how to rush. 'Cause
You need to know how to rush.
Russian is not
So-
just marching down the road.
No. So all of those were things that, again, a part of the new structure that we implemented. All of that was a part of it, and I think we can say that we're pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, even for me, as part of the Unmasking documentary, I'm plugging it again, coming out to you guys as practices, and this is all the groups, I start to learn the routines, I start to learn people's movements.
Yeah.
So when someone's dancing, I know when I can get close and when I can get far. And I watched during the Mikey Wright Cancer Rush, a cameraman from a company almost got kicked because he didn't know someone's routine.
boy.
I backed away and he stood right there,
Right.
and the leg went, and I think he did get kicked. But
Oh, boy.
I've been to enough of these practices where I know what's happening and
When to move.
when to move,
Yeah.
and when I can get close, and when I can walk through the group. Because someone even commented to me in Junkanoo, like, how do you know when to move through the group? I'm like, because I go to their practice.
All right.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, because you're there, you can see the positive things about being there, being consistent, and knowing exactly, as you say, knowing what to do and when to do it. And then aside from that is, you're able to learn, because each group is different, yes? And you're able to learn what one group do from what the other group do and don't. So that's another positive that comes from it as well.
Well, Armaly, I once again want to say congratulations to you and your group. You guys did an amazing job. And we have a tradition here in our podcast where we are sponsored by Walker's Key Maravilla Rum. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the podcast. The rum is available at the Bahamas Maritime Museum here in Freeport, or if you're in Nassau, you can buy it from John Watlin's. So we like to take a shot of the rum, but we ask our guests to give a toast.
Okay.
So if everyone has a shot glass in front of them. And I had to eat before we came out here because I've made the mistake of doing this podcast on an empty
Yeah,
stomach.
you too.
So the toast is yours.
So I'd like to toast to the Swingers Junkanoo Group, our fans and our sponsors. I'd like to say thank you, as well as looking for continued growth for Junkanoo and Grand Palma. Salute. Good stuff.
You like that?
Yeah.
So once again, we'd like to thank you guys for tuning into In the Shack. I think this was a pretty good episode. And now Swingers, the one-time defending champ. Now
Yes.
the work starts.
Yes.
Got to go for two.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Until next time.
Okay.